Well, I'm getting ready to wire up this alarm. This alarm. With all of its glorious wires and such. However, I'm going to, it wants me to hook up these two wires together to a constant hot. Now these two wires look like maybe number 12. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right through the firewall and run. Seeing that I'm going through the firewall, I got to drill a hole through the firewall. I'm going to run a number 4 gauge through there. This way I have plenty of battery 12 volt wire under the dash as far as amps and volts if I need it. But whenever you're going to go under or through a firewall and go directly to the battery, you want to fuse it as close to the battery as possible. Now any grounds I'll use right at the chassis. I chassis ground everything. The battery is connected to the frame and the chassis. So why do I need to run a wire? You follow? I can go all the way to the back of the truck and get negative 12 volts of ground just by touching the frame. So there's really no sense in running 2 wires. In the long run, it can actually harm you because you want your ground short. The shorter, the better. Alright, and that's all there is to it. And then there's something called ground loops that you have to be concerned about. I'm looking for a fuse here, by the way, that what size is this one? Come on, give me a size. Give me an amp. 40 amp, that's enough. Alright. Now, as you can see, I have some with and some without. This has a little neon light in there that lets me know what's going on. So anyway, you always want to make sure that your grounds are short. And if you're going to run them, you shouldn't make them heavier. The grounds are important. The voltage, let me turn the water off there. I was just refreshing the boys' water bowl. All right, the voltage has to get out before it can get in. And if it doesn't happen, you end up with a problem. All right, there's also a thing called a ground loop that can start getting interfered with. So again, why should I run 2 wires, hot and ground, doubling the length and the expense anyway, all right, and then have to worry about possibly grounding or fusing the ground as well when this is all ground. The battery ground is connected to this. So anywhere on this truck, if I hooked a positive up to like a radio and took the negative and touched a truck, anywhere in the truck, the radio is going to work. This is the best ground you have going for you. Running a wire is just a waste of material, time, and it's not going to be as good. So anyway, let me get this here started and then I'll be right back to you. By the way, if you're using this type of a fuse holder, because they make different types of fuses. They make the big max fuses, which are a big blade fuse, and they have different types of holders where they just connect the wires underneath and with screws and a snap cap and everything is fine. I do have some of those inside, but I would prefer to use this one because it's a lower profile for me. When I put it up underneath here, I don't have to worry about it. And it just unscrews and you pop the glass fuse out, which is a monster fuse. However, you got to make sure when you're using this to put the sleeves on before you put the ends on, because otherwise you're going to be taking it all apart again. Now it's not a big deal, but it's time, you know, and it's just something you got to take apart. And if it took you a little while to put it in because you want to do it just right, you know, well then at that point you're going to have to take it apart and redo it again. So remember to put those little end caps on before you put the connector on. Another thing, people used to ask that, well, Jesus, when you put the bare wire in there, because what you're doing is you're stripping the wire back and you're pushing it in, and then you twist it, you know, and some will want to tin it, and basically fill it up with solder, which you can do that as well. But it's not really necessary. The bottom part of this screw is kind of like got grooves cut in it, for one. The other is you twist it nice and tight, but when you're screwing that screw in, it's not only pushing down against the wire, it's taking whatever other wire it doesn't catch and it's spreading it out. So it's basically expanding the wire completely all the way around as it's being pushed down against the majority of the wire. So there's no reason to really have to tin it unless you want to. Now this is also something you want to think about, because I had just caught myself, and I'm glad I did. The battery in this thing is not easy to get out. There's very little room, and it's pretty tight. It actually rubs up against this when you're taking it out of there. If you had a top post, it might be almost impossible unless you started disconnecting everything. Now this is a little bit oversized, but still, it's very tight. So if I took that fuse holder and put it up under there like I was going to, I'd have to take it off in order to remove the battery. Now, however, you don't remove the battery every day, but I'm not looking to make more work for myself. Nor am I always going to be the one that may change the battery. So I don't want somebody else to try to finagle it, trying to get it out through there, and either breaking this or disconnecting it or not being hooked up right. So instead of going through all that, I just soon reroute it, which I'm going to do, and I'm going to have it over in here. So it's out of everybody's way, and it's still doing the job, and it's actually better off, because now if you have to get to the battery or any other thing, it's not in the way. I can take the cover off the relay box, it's not in the way. So I have no problems with it being there. So that's where I'm going to put it, and I'm actually glad I remembered that. When I came through